Have you ever felt that profound spiritual hunger, the kind that makes comfort feel almost like a cage?
Mm-hmm. That relentless gnawing sensation.
Yeah, where even when you have it all, the knowledge, the admiration, a life that's perfectly designed for you, the single most important thing is still just missing.
That is, I think, the most fundamental human conflict, that relentless search for ultimate meaning, for the true self.
It's the drive that makes people do incredible things.
It is. It compels people to abandon luxury, certainty, and all established doctrine, really, all in pursuit of an answer they suspect can only be found deep within.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Today, we're doing a deep dive into an extraordinary, almost mythic roadmap for enlightenment.
We're tracking the journey laid out in Hermann Hesse's seminal work, Siddhartha, an Indian tale.
And our mission here is to really understand the protagonist, Siddhartha, as a kind of spiritual radical.
He absolutely is. He's a seeker who systematically and very deliberately rejects every single established path presented to him.
We're talking Brahminism, asceticism.
And even, crucially, the fully realized perfected teachings of Gautama, the Buddha himself.
Because his core belief is that salvation, if you can call it that, has to be found purely through experience.
Yes, through the brutal, messy, sometimes glorious process of self-experience.
So let's start with the man himself. Siddhartha is introduced as the son of a high-caste Brahmin. He's basically born into spiritual aristocracy.
Right. He's intelligent, he's handsome, and he is highly, highly learned. He's mastered the sacred texts, the rituals.
He's even mastered the silent recitation of the holy word, Om.
And it's not just intellectual mastery. The text tells us he knows, deep in his being, that Atman, the indestructible core of the self, is one with Brahman, the absolute universal spirit.
Which is, that's the ultimate philosophical prize in Hinduism.
It's the goal, realizing the union of your soul with the cosmos. He already has the answer, on paper.
And on top of that, he was adored, a joy to his father, bliss to his mother, admired by the whole community.
And his best friend, Govinda, is utterly devoted to him. He intends to follow him like a shadow in this life and the next. Siddhartha truly had it all.
Perfection by every external metric.
But here's the profound irony, the thing that drives the entire narrative. Despite all this external perfection, all this adoration, the text says he, Siddhartha, was not a source of joy for himself. He found no delight in himself.
He had the answer, the intellectual key to Atman, but he didn't live the realization.
Exactly. The knowledge was there. The wisdom was completely absent.
And this internal vacuum, this hollowness, brings us to the first major rejection.
The rejection of his entire world. His caste, his tradition.
He's living this life dedicated to sacred ablutions, offerings, philosophical debates, but he becomes fundamentally restless.
Well, he realizes that the wisdom of his venerable teachers and even his own father had already been given to him.
It was poured into him.
Yes, as the source material says, they had filled his expecting vessel with their richness. But the vessel wasn't full. His spirit just wasn't content.
So the problem wasn't the knowledge itself.
No, it was the mechanism of transmission. It was secondhand.
He starts to dissect the rituals he's performing every day. He looks at the ablutions, the ceremonial washings, and concludes they're just water.
Right. They don't actually wash off sin. They don't heal the spirit's chronic thirst. He's going through the motions, but it feels like empty choreography to him.
And this leads him to a pretty profound philosophical critique of the very gods the Brahmins worship.
It's a huge leap. He starts thinking, well, if Atman, this eternal, singular, indestructible source, is within us, then why are we devoting so much energy to these external gods?
Are the gods themselves just created beings?
Exactly. Are they mortal? Are they subject to time and illusion, just like us?
That is a seriously radical thought for a young Brahmin.
It is, because if the gods aren't the ultimate reality, then all the rituals designed to please them are fundamentally misdirected.
And that's the central crack in his tradition. He sees that the Brahmins knew everything, the creation of the world, the origin of language, the acts of the gods, but they lack the ability to live the one and only thing, the most important thing.
And that one and only thing is the true, lived union with Atman. The Brahmins could discuss Atman for days. They could teach the concept.
But Siddhartha observes that they themselves seem to be perpetually searching. They're constantly having to cleanse themselves with new rituals.
Right. If this pristine source was really springing from their hearts, why was it so dormant? Why did they still need all these external reminders?
It's the difference between having the architectural blueprints for a mansion.
And actually living inside it.
Exactly. The knowledge was collected, pure as a honey. But where was the Brahmin who could bring that familiarity with Atman out of the sleep into the state of being awake, into the life?
The integration was missing, and this insight becomes Siddhartha's core operating principle. The conviction that Atman, the true self, must be found within, and nobody, no teacher, no ritual, no book, could show him the way. All external seeking, he concludes, is just a detour.
Or getting lost?
Right.
So this realization, it demands a break. An immediate physical and really dramatic break.
And it happens when the samanas, these skinny, withered ascetics, travel through his town.
And the samanas practice self-mortification, right?
Whoa.
To deny the ego and achieve enlightenment.
Yes. And Siddhartha sees them, these emaciated figures, with a hot scent of quiet passion, and his decision is instantaneous.
It's described as unstoppable, like the arrow shot from the bow.
It's just this urgent, primal calling away from intellectual comfort and toward raw experience.
The confrontation with his father is just fantastic trauma.
It is. His father, understandably, he opposes the request, forbids him from even mentioning it again.
But Siddhartha doesn't argue, does he? He uses spiritual force.
He demonstrates his resolve by just standing there, silently, motionless, all night long, with his arms folded like a statue.
And hour after hour, his father checks on him.
In the dark, in the dawn, and Siddhartha is still there, tall and resolute. The father finally realizes that Siddhartha no longer dwelt with him in his home, that he had already left him.
He basically forces his father's hand by proving that his spirit has already vacated the premises.
He's already gone, and as he leaves, his shadow, Govinda, who's been waiting nearby, just gets up and joins him immediately.
So now Siddhartha plunges into the complete opposite extreme, a life of intense discipline deprivation with the samanas.
He sheds his fine garments, his entire past, and focuses on one singular goal: to become empty, empty of thirst, empty of wishing, empty of dreams, empty of joy and sorrow.
This section really emphasizes the sheer physical commitment. It's brutal.
It is. He ate only once a day, never cooked food. He fasted for nearly a month at times.
And you get these incredible descriptions. His shoulders dusty and bloody, his flesh waning. He literally transforms from this pampered scholar into a starved shadow.
And you have to understand, this wasn't just penance. This was a radical self-experiment.
He would stand exposed to the burning sun until the pain of thirst just subsided.
Right. Or he'd stand in the rainy season until the cold could no longer be felt. He purposely endured pain, like cowering in thorny bushes until the wounds ceased to burn, all to achieve this state of non-self.
And the mental discipline, it had to match the physical.
Absolutely. He learned to control his breath, slow his heart rate, and use these meditation techniques, the samana techniques, to slip out of his current self.
And into thousands of other forms.
He became a heron flying over mountains, feeling its hunger and dying its death. He slipped inside the decaying body of a dead jackal, decomposing and scattering his dust.
He became wood, he became stone, he became water.
He was experiencing this cyclical, transformative intoxication of existence.
So on the surface, this seems like a great success, right?
Right.
He's mastered the art of non-attachment, temporary ego death.
You'd think so.
But why does the samana path ultimately fail him? Even after 3 years of this intense discipline.
Because the return was always inevitable.
Ah.
He could flee 1,000 times into the forms of nature, but he always found his old self again, sun shone or moon, and he still felt that inescapable agony of the cycle.
So the technique, no matter how rigorous, was still just a means to an end.
Exactly. And the underlying self, the ego that wants to be saved or wants to know, was still perfectly intact.
So he delivers this devastating critique to Govinda.
He does. He says this entire arduous path is merely a short escape of the agony of being a self, a short numbing of the senses.
And here's the comparison that is just. It's so radical. It's so dismissive of everything they've just endured.
It's shocking. He compares the samana's highest meditative achievement, this temporary non-self, to the short numbing a cart driver finds drinking rice wine in an inn.
I mean, just think about the shock value of that statement.
It's incredible.
You've just spent 3 years in brutal deprivation, perfecting techniques that take years to master, only to be told that your spiritual high is chemically and spiritually equivalent to a peasant getting drunk for an hour.
And Govinda, of course, the loyal one, he tries to object. He argues that the drunk returns unchanged while the samana ascends, but Siddhartha
is resolute. He insists that after escaping his body through all these exercises, He finds only a short numbing.
And he's just as far removed from wisdom, from salvation, as a child in the mother's womb.
He realizes that the very act of searching, the desire to know or achieve wisdom, is rooted in the ego.
Right. He stakes his conviction. There is nothing to be learned. If Atman is everywhere, then the desire to actively find it is its worser enemy. The knowledge is already there. The search is what prevents you from seeing it.
It's the ultimate spiritual paradox, isn't it? The moment you desire enlightenment, you are clinging to the ego that needs enlightenment.
Precisely. He spent years trying to erase the ego through denial, but the pursuit itself proved the ego's persistence, and that's why he announces they have to leave. They're suffering from the exact same thirst he had when he began.
So Siddhartha has now rejected the path of inherited knowledge.
And the path of self-denial.
He is now completely directionless, convinced that all teachers are useless.
And yet, this is the exact moment when the fragrant myth of Gautama, the Buddha, reaches them.
The timing is crucial. The world was suffering, and this rumor of a man who had overcome the suffering of the world in himself and reached nirvana, it provided immense comfort.
Gautama, the Sakyamuni, was said to possess the highest enlightenment. He had defeated Mara, the devil of temptation, and he knew the cycle of previous lives. He was the real deal.
So this leads them to Savatthi, to the Jetavana grove where Gautama taught.
And the first time Siddhartha sees him collecting alms in a yellow robe, the recognition is instant, and it's absolute.
But it wasn't because of miracles or any kind of external pomp.
No, not at all. It was the perfection of his calm. There was nothing left to seek in this man.
His appearance was quiet, showing no searching, no desire, no imitation, no effort to be seen, only light and peace.
This was a man who hadn't just attained knowledge. He was knowledge. And Siddhartha feels this immense veneration and love for this truthful, perfected being.
That evening, they hear the doctrines, the Four Noble Truths of Suffering, its origin, the Eightfold Path to Salvation.
And Govinda, the faithful shadow, is immediately and completely won over. The message is so clear, so true.
He steps forward and takes refuge in the teachings and joins the community.
And this is the moment of definitive separation. Siddhartha realizes that while he admires and, reveres Gautama, he cannot follow the doctrine.
He has to take this final, colossal step alone. He has to reject the only truly perfected teacher he has ever encountered.
He asks for a private audience, and he begins by praising the teachings, calling them wondrous. He admits that Gautama presents the world as a perfect chain, clear as a crystal.
A necessary sequence of cause and effect where everything is connected by the same law. He totally agrees that the uniformity of the world, in the Buddha's words, is irrefutable.
But here comes the core philosophical objection, the true test of Siddhartha's radicalism.
He points out that the teaching of salvation and overcoming the world introduces a small breach.
Something alien, something new, which cannot be demonstrated and cannot be proven.
We should pause here just to make sure we're all clear on this objection, because it's subtle but so important.
Please.
If the world is a perfect, eternal chain of cause and effect, where everything is predetermined by what came before, then the concept of salvation or escape from that chain is an impossibility.
Right. Salvation, by definition, must come from outside the chain, which then breaks the entire system of eternal, uniform law the Buddha just laid out.
It's a genius logical trap. Gautama is teaching that the world is complete.
Yet he's also teaching a way to escape completeness. Siddhartha argues that the Buddha teaches the chain of cause and effect, but the Buddha's own liberation can't be explained by that chain. It's an unexplained miracle within a perfect system.
And Gautama's response is just masterfully gentle.
It is. He warns Siddhartha against the thicket of opinions and of arguing about words. He says the goal of the teachings isn't to explain the world, but to offer salvation from suffering.
He implies that the argument about logic is just a distraction.
But Siddhartha holds his ground. He goes right back to his core tenet, personal experience. You have found salvation from death. It has not come to you by means of teachings.
He's saying that no one, not even the Buddha, can convey the mystery of what happened to him in the hour of his own enlightenment. That experience is fundamentally unshareable.
Which leads to his definitive conclusion. Nobody will obtain salvation by means of teachings. He has to depart from all teachers, even the Buddha, to reach my goal by myself or to die.
And this leads to that beautiful, almost tender farewell.
Gautama's final warning. You are wise, O Samana. Be aware of too much wisdom.
That warning seems to be the final piece of the puzzle for him.
I think so. Siddhartha looks at the Buddha's smile, his walk, And he understands that true wisdom resides not in the words, but in the presence.
He realizes that the Buddha has deprived him of his friend Govinda.
But in return, he had given me Siddhartha myself. He's shed his last external anchor. He is now utterly, terrifyingly reliant on the self.
This is the moment of his true, solitary awakening.
Leaving the Jetavana Grove, Siddhartha feels completely free. His past life, his reliance on knowledge and doctrine, it's all gone.
He finally understands the central mistake of his first life. He says, I was afraid of myself. I was fleeing from myself.
And this awakening is transformative. The world is no longer the veil of Maya, this illusion that needs to be destroyed by rigorous thought.
Suddenly it's beautiful, colorful, strange, and mysterious.
Hmm.
He stops seeing the world as an obstacle to enlightenment.
The purpose and the essential properties are no longer somewhere beyond things. They are in them. He realizes he was scorning the physical world, like someone trying to read a holy text, but scorning the letters and symbols you need to convey the meaning.
So now he must study and love the visible world, the letters, to find the divinity within it.
Which means entering samsara.
Let's clarify that for everyone. While the term literally means the wandering or flow in Buddhism and Hinduism, it really signifies the cycles of suffering, attachment, death, and rebirth driven by karma and desire.
Right. And Siddhartha is choosing to plunge into the very mechanism he just spent years trying to transcend.
He's choosing immersion over avoidance.
Exactly. He resolves to gain the necessities of the world. Clothes, shoes, money, so he can truly experience the life of the childlike people, those motivated by everyday passions.
And on his path, he encounters the ferryman, Vasudeva, for the first time.
Who is already this figure of quiet wisdom. He advises Siddhartha that the river is a great teacher and even predicts his return, saying, everything is coming back, you too, Samana, will come back.
Siddhartha's destination is very deliberate. He seeks out Kamala, the famous, beautiful courtesan.
And not for romance. He seeks her out as a teacher in the art of love. He wants a skill, a form of knowledge that he lacks.
And Kamala, who is sharp and pragmatic, she sets the price of admission immediately.
She does. He must come back in fine clothes, with shoes, money, and gifts. She recognizes the samana within him and demands that he shed that dusty austerity if he wants to play the game of the world.
This leads him to Kamaswami, the rich merchant, to seek employment.
And Kamaswami, this archetypal worldly man, asks him what he has to offer. Siddhartha's answer is incredible. He uses his rejected samana skills as commercial capital.
He says, I can think, I can wait, I can fast.
It's just a genius translation of spiritual discipline into practical business utility. Kamaswami is completely baffled. Why would those skills matter in trade?
So Siddhartha explains the practical value of fasting. He can wait calmly, knowing no impatience, he knows no emergency, he's never desperate.
Which means if a deal is bad, he can just walk away without any fear of starvation. He's never forced to accept bad service or a bad deal out of desperation.
His spiritual detachment becomes a source of extreme financial power.
And he proves his intelligence instantly. Kamaswami gives him a scroll, and Siddhartha writes a perfect summation of his philosophy at that moment.
Writing is good, thinking is better. Being smart is good, being patient is better.
Kamaswami is impressed but also confused. He notices that Siddhartha is no proper merchant. He seems to be playing with business.
He makes vast sums of money, but he treats losses and gains with the exact same calmness. He's never afraid of failure.
Because the money itself is still just a tool for him. It's not a sacred object.
And meanwhile, Kamala is teaching him the art of love, which she treats like a highly refined game.
She teaches him that pleasure cannot be taken without giving it. That love should leave both parties admiring and satisfied. It's an instruction in sensory appreciation.
And he excels at this game, too. He's handsome, intelligent, financially successful.
But his true self, his heart, the source of his being remains detached. It's floating above the game. He's just watching himself play the part of the rich lover.
And Kamala, the expert in human connection, sees this immediately.
Oh, she sees it. She points out the psychological rift. You are the best lover I ever saw, and yet, my dear, you've remained a samana, and yet you do not love me, you love nobody. Isn't it so?
And that's the critical failure of his worldly experiment, at least in this phase.
It is. He entered samsara to learn how to love the letters of the world, but he only mastered the technique of playing with them. His superiority, his samana detachment, protects him from the pain of attachment.
But it also protects him from the truth of human connection.
This detached superiority, though, it can't last. Years pass, and that bright, almost cynical state of playing the game begins to fade.
The text tells us that the world and sloth had entered Siddhartha's soul. slowly making it tired, putting it to sleep.
And the source material handles this psychological analysis so beautifully. How does a man of such intense discipline, who mastered thinking, waiting, and fasting, how does he fall?
It happens slowly, through spiritual corrosion.
First, his initial quiet superiority, it turns into arrogance, then into tiredness, impatience.
And finally, anger. He gradually adopts all the negative qualities of the childlike people, but without any of their essential joy or naivety. He just loses his patience for the endless human squabbles of commerce.
And then comes the vice he most despised: greed.
Property and riches, which were once just tools to get to Kamala, they become a shackle, a burden.
He's now caught in the cycle of accumulation, not because he needs the money, but because he's subconsciously seeking the excitement of the game.
He falls into gambling with increasing rage and passion.
Yeah.
And this isn't just about money.
Not at all. It's a desperate attempt to feel something real again. He is seeking the fearful and petrifying fear of losing high stakes as his only remaining intoxication. He loses huge sums due to a pain of his heart.
So this is the key insight into his descent. His spiritual detachment created a vacuum.
And now he's trying to fill that emptiness with manufactured risk and adrenaline. After losing, his mind is immediately set on new riches, forcing him back into this endless, pointless cycle.
He starts dreaming about money. He becomes strict and petty in business.
He's aged, and he now exhibits the most contemptible features of the rich he once mocked: discontent, of sickliness, of ill humor, of sloth, of a lack of love. The detached samana is now just a miserable, greedy merchant.
And the warning of his complete decay comes in a dream.
Yes. Kamala, who is also feeling her age and growing tired of samsara, she speaks of following the Buddha.
That night, Siddhartha dreams of the small, rare, singing bird, the symbol of his true spirit dead in its golden cage.
He throws the dead bird away and feels this terrible, shocking sense of loss, as if he threw away all value and everything good.
This dream triggers the crisis. He wakes up just encompassed by this deep sadness, this profound self-disgust.
He feels the lukewarm, repulsive taste of the wine and this disgust penetrating his entire body. He recognizes his whole worldly life had been a pathetic, childish game, and he is spiritually exhausted.
He's played samsara until it has nearly killed him.
So he leaves, immediately, never looking back at his wealth or at Kamala.
He reaches the large river, the boundary he crossed years ago, and is filled with this deep, painful yearning to shake off the whole desolate dream.
He intends to let go of the coconut tree trunk he's leaning against and just drown himself. He sees the suicide as the great vomiting, the ultimate cleansing of his failed life.
This is the absolute bottom, the point of total annihilation.
Yeah.
He is slipping toward death, completely defeated.
When the single holy word, stirs from the remote areas of his soul.
And we really need to define Om here properly. It's often so clumsily translated.
It is. Om is the sound of the universe, the primordial vibration, the fundamental essence of reality. It means union, completion, the perfected.
And the sound just instantly shocks him back into awareness.
The realization is this: seeking death was merely the wish of a child. The sound of Om recalls Brahmin, the indestructibility of life, which he had completely forgotten.
He realizes that this life, however shameful, is part of the eternal flow. He couldn't kill life. He could only kill his current manifestation of self.
He collapses, and his deep sleep is described as a long meditative recitation of Om, a complete submergence into perfected reality.
When he wakes, he feels renewed, strangely joyful.
And he has this profound insight. He had to sin, he had to become a fool, he had to fall into the deepest despair to finally find Atman, the indestructible self, in him again.
So Siddhartha wakes up a new man, and he finds himself exactly where he started, by the river.
And the first person he encounters is Govinda, now an aged monk, still diligently searching, still following Gautama's path.
And Govinda sees Siddhartha dressed in the remnants of these rich man's clothes, with perfumed hair. But he doesn't recognize him at all.
Siddhartha laughs, explaining that the wheel of physical manifestations is turning quickly. He is in flux. I was a rich man, and I'm no rich man anymore, and what'll be tomorrow, I don't know.
And Siddhartha realizes that the samana skills he once relied on, fasting, waiting, thinking, had completely abandoned him in samsara.
He now feels like a child again, naked of knowledge but ready to truly begin learning.
He decides to stay at the river and seeks out the ferryman, Vasudeva, whom he met all those years ago.
And he confesses his entire life story. The Brahmin, the samana, the Buddha, the courtesan, the merchant, the gambler, the suicidal despair, everything.
And Vasudeva's great virtue is highlighted here. He just listened, with rapt attention, without judgment.
He neither praised nor rebuked Siddhartha. He let Siddhartha's words enter his mind. Quiet, open, waiting.
The source material says this listening was a happy fortune. Siddhartha felt his confession enter Vasudeva's mind like rain entering a tree.
This is the next stage of enlightenment. It's not speaking, it's not teaching, it's the pure act of listening and accepting.
And Vasudeva, who is clearly a perfected being, he confirms what Siddhartha already sensed. The river has spoken to you. It is your friend as well. It speaks to you as well.
He invites Siddhartha to stay, predicting that he will learn everything from the river.
So Siddhartha accepts. And he learns primarily to listen with a quiet heart, with a waiting, open soul, without passion, without a wish, without judgment.
He learns more from the river than from any doctrine he ever heard.
And he soon grasps the river's first great philosophical secret.
The illusion of time. The river is everywhere at once, at the source, the mouth, the rapids, the sea. It contains its past, present, and future simultaneously.
And this realization completely transforms his view of himself. He realizes the boy Siddhartha, the rich merchant, the old ferryman, they're only separated by a shadow, not by something real.
Nothing was, nothing will be. Everything is present in the moment. The agonizing cycle of rebirth, samsara, it becomes meaningless when you see it through the lens of timelessness.
And it's in this profound tranquility that the world of attachment tragically returns.
Yes. Kamala, traveling with her 11-year-old son to see the dying Buddha, is bitten by a poisonous snake near the ferry and collapses.
Siddhartha immediately recognizes her, and the boy's face is a wondrous reminder that reveals him instantly to be his son.
Kamala dies shortly after, having recognized the peace in Siddhartha, realizing she had found the perfected one she sought after all her searching.
So Siddhartha is now shackled by this new, painful emotion.
Yeah.
The fierce, blind love of a father.
And his son, who was raised in luxury, is arrogant, disobedient, and he hates the simple, pious life of these two old ferrymen. He calls them banana eaters and spits contempt at their gentleness.
This is a devastating test for Siddhartha. The man who mastered non-attachment is now consumed by the strongest and strangest of all passions, a blind love.
A murky source of samsara. He tries to win the boy over with tenderness and patience, but the boy only rejects him more violently.
And Vasudeva, the master of quiet wisdom, counsels him about the nature of this love.
He notes that Siddhartha is shackling the boy with love. He's trying to protect him from his own destiny.
Vasudeva asks the ultimate question: how can you protect your son from the suffering of samsara when you yourself needed to plunge into sin and lust to find your own path?
Just as Siddhartha could not be spared from his journey, he cannot spare his son. You would not be able to take the slightest part of his destiny upon yourself.
This is the second monumental lesson of experience. The path is personal. It is unshareable, even for the self he loves most.
He attempts to hold on to the boy, but the son eventually runs away, stealing the boat and oar, shouting his hatred and contempt for his father's piety.
Siddhartha instinctively gives chase, just frantic with paternal love, crossing the river boundary in desperation.
But Vasudeva gently reminds him that the boy wishes to flee, and Siddhartha is forced to return, empty, but waiting. Realizing his attachment was foolish, but the pain of loss remains a burning, undeniable wound.
And for a long time, the loss and the love for his son remain a burning wound in Siddhartha's heart.
But this pain is essential. Slowly, the text describes the wound beginning to blossom.
This suffering transforms his view of the childlike people, the ordinary merchants and lovers he once scorned.
He finally understands their passions, their vanity, greed, blind love, not as foolishness, but as the manifestation of life. That what is alive, the indestructible, the Brahmin, the divine flows through their mistakes just as much as through his achievements.
He realizes his intellectual wisdom, this conscious thought of oneness, is, well, it's abstract.
He even doubts if that thought is superior. He observes that the worldly people are sometimes superior in their tough, unrelenting performance of what is necessary. They live life fully, even if mistakenly. He spent too long trying to think his way out of it.
The ultimate final breakthrough happens when that wound burns violently again. Siddhartha, consumed by yearning, crosses the river, intending to look for his son one more time.
And the river laughs at him.
He stops. He looks at his reflection, which now strikingly resembles his own father's face.
And the revelation is cyclical. It's fateful. His own youthful departure caused his father the exact same pain he now suffers for his son. It is a fateful circle.
He is standing exactly where his father once stood, completing the karmic loop.
He confesses his suffering to Vasudeva one last time. They sit and listen to the river together, and the river's voices, all the voices of suffering, joy, yearning, pain, laughter, life, death, they all merge into one single eternal sound.
That great collective song consists of a single word. In that singular moment, Siddhartha realizes that everything is intertwined and perfect in every moment. He sees the simultaneous nature of reality.
All sin already carries the divine forgiveness in itself, he understands. There's no separation, no escape needed, no judgment.
He stops fighting his fate. He embraces a loving agreement with the flow of events, and his face shines with the cheerfulness of absolute knowledge.
This new state leads to the ultimate wisdom, which he articulates in the stone parable.
In the past, he would have loved a stone only because it might eventually become a human or spirit in the cycle of rebirth. It was conditional love based on potential.
But now he loves the stone because it is already and always everything: animal, God, Buddha, and stone, and it just happens to appear as a stone today.
He stops trying to categorize or transcend things. He realizes true perfection is found in loving things as they are, not as they might become. He loves things, not words.
And seeing Siddhartha reach this final state of perfection, Vasudeva, the master of listening, announces his own departure. His purpose is complete.
I'm going into the forests. I'm going into the oneness.
He leaves with deep joy, his body full of light, having served as the silent midwife for Siddhartha's enlightenment. Siddhartha now sits, the new ferryman, the new perfected one.
And a final scene is the return of Govinda. Still searching after all these years, he seeks out the wise ferryman he's heard about.
And Govinda asks if Siddhartha has found a teaching or a knowledge that helps him live.
Siddhartha offers his controversial, ultimate teaching one last time. Wisdom cannot be passed on. Wisdom which a wise man tries to pass on to someone always sounds like foolishness.
Knowledge can be passed. Wisdom requires experience.
And then he offers this profound and terrifying thought that synthesizes his entire journey. The opposite of every truth is just as true.
Govinda is, of course, completely confused. How can he reconcile this? Siddhartha explains that any truth expressed in words is inherently one-sided, a mere half.
Sansara, the world of suffering, and nirvana, liberation, they're just words. Time is an illusion. The Buddha is waiting inside the robber is waiting inside the Brahmin. Everything is perfect and simultaneous in every moment.
Govinda is still wrestling with words and doctrines. He just can't grasp this mental puzzle. So Siddhartha urges him, "Kiss my forehead, Govinda."
Govinda obeys, and he receives an immediate, overwhelming, blinding vision.
He sees a flowing river of faces, a fish, a child, a murderer, corpses, gods, all generated, destroyed, and changing.
Yet all simultaneously covered by the smiling mask of oneness, which is Siddhartha's face.
And that smile, the smile of timelessness above the thousand births and deaths, it matches the wise thousandfold smile of Gautama, the Buddha.
And Govinda, finally finding peace, bows down. He recognizes that the truth is not in the words or the doctrines, but in the experienced living presence of the perfected one.
What an extraordinary and demanding journey. Siddhartha's path dictates that true liberation requires the systemic rejection of external wisdom, followed by this complete, unfiltered immersion in life's attachments and sufferings in samsara.
The circle of fate is not something to be escaped, but something to be understood and loved.
And the core takeaway, the thing that really has to stick with you, is that Siddhartha's ultimate realization, the Om, the secret of oneness, was unteachable.
It had to be lived, inhaled, and felt, moment by moment. It required the immersion, the lust, the greed, and the deepest despair just to strip away that arrogant, intellectually detached self he started with.
Siddhartha himself summed it up perfectly when he was explaining his path. He stated that he needed sin very much. I needed lust, and needed the most shameful despair in order to learn how to love the world. The detours weren't mistakes. They were essential classrooms.
So we leave you with this provocative thought, something to mull on as you continue your own journey. What is that perceived mistake, that detour, that moment of shame or deep despair in your own life that you keep trying to scrub away? Could that experience actually be the essential, necessary step, the burning wound that must blossom to achieve your deepest, most enduring self-knowledge?